Welcome back to Getting Started with Linux. I'm your host, Daniel Lowry, and in today's episode, we're going to take a look at creating files. Joining us always, our good friend, Mr. Ross Brunson. Ross, glad to have you back.
Thank you, sir.
I guess we got here, right? Mm-hmm. We've been working with some files. We love it. It's great. Good time had by all. But we're working with files that kind of already exist in the system.
Right.
What if I know it sounds crazy, what if I wanted to create my own file? Mm-hmm. I suppose you could show us a few ways in which that might work itself out.
Well, you could do the standard thing, which is go into an editor such as Nano or whatever and say file save as, or whatever the keystrokes are to do that. The other thing that you can do is you can create empty files. Now, an empty file, again, we talked about this.
Yes.
An empty or a 0-byte file on a Linux system is exactly that. It's an empty file. It simply has no contents. It's not some sort of aberration of nature where a system crashed or a log file got truncated or something like that. So creating a file is pretty simple and straightforward. We use the touch command. Touch is really often used almost primarily for the ability to, I want a log file, and I'm going to say touch log file name, and then since the log file exists, then the logs that are supposed to go into it happen that way. But a lot of times you want to create a file, and you might create the file and then go into an editor and start thinking about what you're going to do, open it up, etc. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that touch can do is it can update the date, time, and access and everything else of an existing file. Oh. So it's kind of confusing every once in a while.
It seems like two very different things.
Right. I'm gonna run touch file name, and I have a file and it has contents, but its date and time is currently now.
Right.
So you always want to check to see if the file actually exists before you create the file. There's other commands like using double redirects and things like that where you can append to a file, but most of the time touch is just create the file or update the latest. People will ask, okay, so I get the creating the file thing. Mm-hmm. When would I ever want to update the file's date and time to the current or some specified time? If you work with large sets of .h files or .c files, development files, you might want to create a release of a certain date and time. And so instead of having 50 files, some of which you've touched recently or you've edited recently, which have the current date and time, you'll go ahead and run the touch command against all those files. They become the today at 1759 release, and then you put them into an archive and send that off to the folks who need to have it. So that's yet another reason why you'd want to use the touch command on, say, a large set of files.
All right, so it sounds like touch is going to be our go-to for creating a file. Any other ways that you'd like to explain that we might get a file made?
Yeah, you can use the cat command. So let's go ahead and you can use a cat in a particular way. Let's switch over to our system here and take a look at the way that this is going to work for us. So for example, if I look in I'll go to my test directory here. I look in my test directory, I've got nothing there. So if I type touch file 1, and then I do an ls-l, I'm going to see that file 1 exists. Notice, please, the size
0
of the file.
Nothing.
Right. Now, if I wanted to, I can run something against it, and I can type in data file, and then save and exit that. And if I run that ls-l again, you're going to see it's got 20 bytes in it.
Oh, yeah. So you've added some data, so the size grew.
Exactly. And so this is a true size of the file, as opposed to some sort of file that exists on a Windows system that has some headers and a bunch of other stuff associated with it.
Kind of inflates the size of it. Yeah.
It's almost as if you're getting a true size as opposed to a relative size on the Windows side. The other thing that you can do here that in order to create a file would be to run the cat command. Now, cat is typically used to take the contents of a file and display it to standard output. So if I were to run cat file 1, it will simply take the contents and show it to me on the screen. If I wanted to create file 2 straight from the command line, no editor, I can type cat and then redirect. So take anything that's about to be typed and put it into file 2. Oops. I don't want to overwrite file 1. That would be not good. So then I can say this is another data file. And when I hit enter, it doesn't execute anything. Nope. I simply have gone from one line to the next. Now I'll press Control D, and if we do an ls-l in this directory, you're going to see two files. Okay, file 1 and file 2. File 1 is the original 20 bytes, and file 2, which had another instead of a data file, you'll see it's got 26 bytes on it. So those are two ways of creating files. And then, of course, once they're files, you can do absolutely anything with an editor or whatever you'd like to do.
Wow, that is a really great way and a quick way to get some new files created. You got to slap some data into it, just a quick text file. Man, I love these options. They just make your life so easy. It's so fast, and you got files. They're ready to rock. Thanks so much, Ross, for joining us. But it looks like that's what we have for this. We have definitely much more information coming as the series progresses, so continue to watch these episodes. But we're going to call it a day. Thanks for watching, everyone.